Hello, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today it's time for another unhaul video. However, I don't really have too much to unhaul. I literally only have two things that I'm actually unhauling. Well, there's actually six, but four of them are novels, and they're novels that I never brought up on the channel, so there's no point in me mentioning them here now. Plus, they're not novels I really care to talk about, so there's no point in mentioning them, right? But there's only two items that I'm unhauling, and then there's 6 items. Well, technically, I guess there are 10 items, 9 items. I don't know how to count, but these are all things that I'm considering unhauling, but that I haven't made a final decision on. So basically, I'm going to talk about them here because I want to verbalize my thought process, and then in 3 months' time, I'll figure out if I did unhaul them or not. Because ultimately, this is a chronicling of my journey through collecting manga and comic books and everything that I kind of collect. And so it's a documentation process, right? So I do want to document this aspect, even if it might just be also because I need to pad the video, right? So it is what it is. But yeah, let's get started with the two things that I am definitely unhauling, and then let's look into the consideration stuff. So first of all, I really just bought this, and I really love this cover, but the story is bad. So there's no point in me keeping it, and it's kind of sad, but that's just the reality of it. There's also better covers in this run of comic books, so I might pick up that, whatever that cover might be, and keep that version instead of this one, and then just have it like a painting, right? Like an art piece, I guess. But Are Taurus #1, I picked it up this month, at the beginning of the month, and I immediately decided to drop it because I don't really enjoy it. I didn't really like it because of a few different reasons. First of all, the story is not good. Second of all, the characters are not interesting. Are Taurus has been very badly misused, and not necessarily in the fact that she was used incorrectly, but rather that there's nothing interesting about the story. This is just trying to sell on her name, and that sucks. Also, John Carter of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Are Taurus have all had a long line of amazing artists associated with Edgar Rice Burroughs' works, with John Carter of Mars, with Are Taurus, and the covers clearly follow in those footsteps. They look really, really good, but the art style inside is just so poor. It's like Tumblr-esque, I guess, but also it's so flat. The colors are bad. They're inconsistent. Well, the color choices are interesting, but the fact that there's no shading, there's no color variation, there's nothing except flat tones, makes looking at this immensely boring. The fact that the story is also not very interesting, and that the line art, the style of the drawing is also bad, just makes this a horrible reading experience, and I wouldn't really want to wish it on anyone, but there's someone out there that collects everything published about Are Taurus, and so hopefully this will go to a better place, a better home, because I certainly am not able to appreciate this for a variety of reasons, right? So that's it for Are Taurus. I am officially unhauling it, but I might keep it because I do like the cover a lot. I would like to have it just like posted somewhere on my wall, right? Because, well, Are Taurus looks good. It's just the story is bad, right? So, yeah. The other, clearly, I am going to unhaul this thing is this volume of The World After the Fall. This is very much in line with the post-solo leveling boom. It's basically a dungeon gate, tower type thing. But I think the world building in this is bad, and I didn't like it, and it was confusing when I read it, and I just did not enjoy it. The art style is good. It's very similar to, Dubu or Reed Ice's Studios kind of work. And the action sequences are also pretty good. But the story and the world building specifically is bad, and I don't like it, and it's confusing, and it's not enjoyable. And I think this is supposed to originally have been a novel, and I would much rather just read the novel. Also, I can read this for free. I don't think I will, but I have that option, so there's no point in me continuing to collect this because I didn't enjoy it. And I'm not going to give it another volume to kind of try to convince me, because I can just read it for free instead and come back to it later. So it is what it is. I'm a bit harsh on this, mostly because it's available elsewhere for free. So I can afford to do that a little bit more, or at least I feel like I can, right? So that's it for that. I really just didn't like the world building for that one. It was confusing. You guys can check out my first impressions review if you want to look at that in more detail. But broadly speaking, that's all it is. It's just not well done. Like the writing was not good, and so that's it. So let's look at the stuff that I'm considering unhauling, but I have not made a decision on yet. So let's start with the comic books again. So I have these 6 comic books. They all belong to actually, is it just 5? I guess it is just 5. 1, 2, no, it is 6. I'm stupid. I can't count. Okay, so here we go. The least we can do, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Yeah, so why am I unhauling this? Well, because even though the initial premise was really good, it actually reminded me of this old Garth Nix story that I used to like. I had both of them. I had all of the books in that series in these 2 little like hardcover collector editions. I still have them. And it was a story about people that had the power to harness light through these prism stones that each collected one type of light. And this isn't exactly the same, but it kind of has that same like stone plus light equals power type thing. And initially, I thought it was interesting. However, the problem is that the writing is just not there. I think the story can appeal to certain groups of people, and it probably would have appealed to me in a different kind of way if the writing was at least a little bit better than it is. But I think that it decides to forego writing an interesting story to focus on providing a lot of different characters for like, I don't really want to say like identity politics reasons, because I don't think that's the case, but it's just more like, let's have one group of let's have a character for each type of group that is usually not represented in comic books, right? Which I think that's a good idea. I just think that the way that it goes about it, which is not really caring about developing a good story, is bad. I didn't enjoy it. So it mostly just focused on having like, here's this like mostly male presenting lesbian, here's this very girly lesbian, here's this yassified dude in like fetish gear, here's this thick black girl that is very sure about her sexuality, here's this old guy that's very gentle, and he kind of has like an unsure kind of like or unclear sexuality, and all of these types of things. And in order to develop those characters, it just kind of made it like a conversation piece between all of the characters, instead of like the action piece that was set up to be, right? So I think that the writing was okay. Like, I didn't dislike the scenes where they were talking, but it was like they're talking instead of doing the cool, take back our, stones or powers from the evil, mostly white government that has control of these things, right? So, I don't know. I just think it didn't work for me. Like I said, I don't think it's bad. Well, I do think it's bad because it's badly written, or because the choices for the writing were not the things that I think would have been the right thing to do. But I do think that there's value in this. It's just not value that I'm able to extract, right? So if you're someone that's really interested in the representation of characters and types of people in comic books, this might be for you. But it isn't for me, because I'm trying to enjoy what I read and not just feel like I'm being lectured or like I'm being forced to interact with these groups of people that I already interact with because I want to. So I don't know if that made sense or not, but yeah. The world building, or like the premise of the story, was really good though, but it wasn't executed correctly, so I think I am going to get rid of it. But I am going to read it one more time. I'll review it properly, and then I'll actually decide if I'm going to unhaul it or not. And then moving on to the beginning after the end, I do have the second volume. I don't know if you guys can see the little strip of purple up there somewhere. There you go. But the thing is that this is basically just a slightly different version of Ashoka Tensei. At least that's how it feels like to me. I like the first volume of Ashoka Tensei, but I didn't really want to read more of it because there's a lot of stuff that's just iffy there. So I didn't really want to continue it. I decided to check this out. I like it. However, the price compared to amount of pages in this book is not good. I don't like that. But usually I can get it for like $14, so it's not that big of a deal. I can get over it to an extent, but not so much that I'm going to be willing to buy 20 volumes of this, right? And it didn't really feel like it went anywhere. Like, it didn't thread or tread new ground, if that makes sense. And so I'm still trying to decide if I like it or not. Like, I enjoyed my reading experience with this first volume, but just because I found enjoyment in it doesn't mean that I will find or continue to find enjoyment in it later, or that the premise isn't boring even though I liked reading it, right? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it, but like, my enjoyment isn't just because of what I'm currently enjoying, but rather what it's setting up, right? Because I like world building. And this doesn't set up anything that I haven't seen before or that I've seen done really good in other things. And I don't think that this will do that great because it's like very derivative of Ashoka Tensei specifically, but just in general isekais. And so I'm not sure that I will really find it valuable. Also, there's this kind of little element of hipsterness in me that's like, oh, everyone thinks it's good, but I don't think it's good, so I must be right, kind of thing, which is bullshit. But that's just kind of how people feel sometimes, and I definitely feel that a little bit with this. I also feel it a little bit with Chainsaw Man. So it is what it is. Moving on, Helk, number 1. I'm unsure if I want to continue collecting this because it took about 2/3 of this volume for me to even get interested in the story. It started off as a funny thing, and then it tried to get serious by the end, but the balance wasn't there. Like, I'm not saying it has to be perfect because I like Mashal, and Mashal kind of does that a lot. It's like very ridiculous, and then it has like a moment of seriousness, and then it swings back to ridiculousness. But I just feel Helk didn't do it that well, or that the ridiculousness was not as enjoyable as things I've seen elsewhere. So I'm unsure about how I feel about this. I liked it enough to keep this first volume, but there's no point in keeping a volume if I'm not going to try to collect the rest of the series, at least in my opinion. Broadly speaking, I think that's how I kind of feel about it. And so I have to really think about it and decide if I want to continue collecting it. And that might mean that I have to buy another volume, like I did for the beginning after the end. Or that might mean that I'm just going to keep this for, a year and then decide later on. I'm not really sure yet, but so far, the only character I liked was this one, and all of the other ones were just kind of not great. They were more like caricatures than they were like actual characters, and it's kind of lame because like anime already mostly just focuses on archetype characters. So having archetype characters that were archetypes of archetypes, the most derivative version of that character was kind of not enjoyable. So I don't know. And lastly, we have Yakuza Fiend. Now, I do know that I'm going to keep this. I just haven't decided if I'm going to continue to collect it or not. And the reason I'm going to keep this first volume is because I have a Shikishi board that goes along with it. And so if I keep both of them together, when I do decide to resell it, it's going to be worth a little bit more, with both items instead of just the one, right? Because I did get this special collection, the special edition from Kinokuniya that came with the Shikishi board. So, there is that because, sometimes you got to consider the monetary value of things beyond just the collector side of things, like just the enjoyment I get out of having it or the enjoyment I get out of giving it to someone else. Sometimes you do have to take into account the monetary value of things. So I am going to keep this first volume. The thing is, am I going to continue collecting it or not? And I'm not really sure because there was elements here that were interesting. There's also a lot of elements that just didn't really matter to me. And so I'm curious to see how I feel about this later. I'm going to have to ruminate a little bit more on it. And I do think I'm going to end up having to buy Volume 2 for this in order to decide. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's kind of the one thing that I failed to buy these first 3 months out of all of the stuff that I had set out to do. So there you go. That's my Unhaul video. This actually ended up being way longer than I thought it would be. But I kind of get on a roll and I start talking. I don't shut up. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you guys think about my choices. And, if you guys have a reason why I should keep something or not, let me know that in the comments. I may pay attention to you or I might not. It really depends. because I haven't really made up my mind about anything except the first two things that I mentioned. So, you know, I'll see if you guys can sway my opinion or not. So, yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.